So Brooke and Katie, welcome. Thanks for joining us, co-owners of Temperate Habits. Let me start off by asking you, why Temperate Habits? Where did you get that name from?
Well, we wanted a name that was personal to us, that kind of reflected who we are. And it was also a challenge to come up with a unique name, being that there are a lot of breweries and a lot of names taken. So we kind of thought back to our past of being pharmacists, and when we were studying for the law exam, when we first got out of school, there was a written line that said, to be a pharmacist, you have to be of good moral character and temperate habits. And that was actually written into law. I think for me, it matched because our brew days were like a forced relaxation day. It took you out of the world from anything else, and you focus on this one thing for this many hours, and it's very methodical, and the boil and the mash, and so it made me feel temperate and relaxed.
So going from something that was a hobby, I guess, originally, to something that you had to make quite a substantial investment in, I guess. What pushed that decision?
The decision was because we felt that pharmacy was kind of a support to something larger. So we love pharmacy in terms of helping people and the interaction between people, but we love being creative as well. So within the medical field, there's a lack of creativity because you kind of follow some guidelines, and it makes sense. You have to be very precise, guideline oriented. So our creative part of us really wanted to expand that into creating beer and using that scientific background to understand how to make beer, the enzymatic reactions and all that stuff, but then bring it to the public and then be able to interact with people like we do now. So
Sure.
That's the perfect part of it, is because we love talking with people but being creative at the same time, and I think it's a really great experience for us. Like between pharmacy and brewing is great, yeah.
So being scientists and being brewers, what's the kind of unique selling point for Temperate Habits? Is there anything particularly unique about the brews that you do?
I think it's creating that, again, creativity with the scientific background. There are people who will homebrew, or people who will actually go through regimented programs and graduate from the schools of brewing and things. So we kind of took our homebrewing background together with our scientific background, and were able to make that happen. And so what we came up with were really sanitary processes and stuff like that. That's from our pharmacy background and understanding the actual reaction, and be able to create really clean, drinkable beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why Skagit County? Why Mount Vernon?
So we have family in the area, and we wanted to be closer to them. And we've also just loved Mount Vernon every time we've been here. And I've always thought of the Pacific Northwest as a place that I just want to be, and I want to settle down. And after opening and the reaction we've gotten from the community, I really feel like that was definitely the right decision.
So decisions and timing, boy, you really picked a time to open, huh? I remember walking by here when they were doing the work, fitting out your place, and then I guess you were about to open, and then COVID hit. How did you manage to pull through that and still open?
So we actually purchased the building. We closed on January of 2020. And so I think that was when the virus was still in sort of overseas. It wasn't reaching here. And so we kind of continued our plans. Our plans for developing this brewery had been in the works for a couple of years. So we looked at a lot of different places before we settled on this particular building. And so we already had this plan in motion. So when we purchased the building and closed on it, we already had okay, this is our process going forward, and this is where our plan is. I think March everything shut down, but that was actually, in a way, didn't hurt us too much because the construction was allowed to continue shortly after that. So while everybody was shut down, current businesses, we were just renovating. So timing was fortunate, but when we decided that we could open at 50% capacity is when we were able to open in August. We decided that that was enough variance to allow us to do good business at that time. So it was kind of like COVID happened and we still had this plan in motion, and we decided that we should just go ahead with our plan. Of course, we didn't know how this would develop and how long this would last.
Yeah. And now, you can't have anyone inside at the moment. Are you actually coping at the moment with just doing outdoor serving and takeaways?
Yeah, I'd say coping is a good word. It's rough, but there's been some positive aspects to it too. We've gotten to know a lot of our customers really well just from being in a small, intimate environment, and that's been a fun part for us. And then I think by word of mouth, things are spreading. So I have confidence that when we are able to reopen, that things are going to work out.
And I guess it's also a combination of serving or bartending and counselling.
Yeah.
Kind of goes hand in hand with the work that you're doing. Any kind of thoughts on that?
Counseling patients in the pharmacy field is similar to talking with people about their personal lives. I mean, counseling as a pharmacist, you don't get too many minutes to do that in the normal setting, but in this setting we get a lot of time with people, and we get to spend a lot of time talking with people about their personal lives and how they're doing, and I think that's a pretty fun aspect.
And do you notice any particular trends at the moment? I mean, are you picking up that people are pretty anxious and maybe even depressed with what's going on with COVID?
It does seem that way, yeah. It seems like people are struggling, being distant from their family. We stayed open for a few hours on Christmas Day just to kind of have a place for people to hang out, and we wanted to be there as well. And that was definitely a day where people were talking about missing family or missing traditions that they normally get to do. So I think in a way having everybody there talking about it together is very therapeutic, and it was for me.
What would have been some of the memorable experiences or moments that have happened since you've been opened? Anything come to mind?
Oh, let's see. The first day we brewed, our fire alarm went off.
I'm sorry?
That was fun. The first day we brewed, our fire alarm went off because we learned that there's a heat sensor right above the boil kettle. So that was exciting.
Oh wow! So the brigade came out and the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun. There's a couple that come here come to our place almost every night, and they were doing some trivia through another brewery, and so they couldn't do that in person, and so they brought it to our brewery. So it kind of was a fun experience to sort of join like their brewery to our brewery, and I think it's a really good experience with the community, and that everyone's kind of supporting each other in terms of not just our experience with customers, but with the other businesses in the area. We have a business close by that does a lot of to-go orders, and we'll have people come and have a beer at our place while they're waiting for that order. Right, and I think it's really great that the community is actually supporting each other, whether it's breweries or other restaurants or something like that. I think that's been the takeaway, is that even though we have COVID, that the community is still strong and supportive.
Like sharing heaters and things like that. That's a good example.
We've been offered some heaters from just members of the public and stuff,
really?
Just to help.
Because it's not the best climate to have outdoor dining at this time of year.
Middle of winter, yeah.
Yes.
What do you think you'd like to be known for, or as Temperate Habits? That's the place that we go to because of the atmosphere or the beer or whatever.
We kind of want to be, it sounds corny maybe, but we want to be the Cheers of this area. We want to have people, if you've ever watched the show, but we want to have people that come and they know each other, they know us. We have a great time, that we're always there as owners and as friends. So that's really what we want to create. It was like a small community brewery. We were not expecting to expand and become a large production brewery or anything like that. We just want to make this sort of community with people here in Skagit.
Where everyone can feel welcome and comfortable.
Yeah. Well, you certainly seem to be doing that.
Oh, good.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.